In this History of the Incredible Hulk video, I take a detailed look at the show, its actors, its comic book origins, and fun trivia surrounding this classic TV superhero series starring Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. The show began as a 2-hour TV movie featuring a television version of the Hulk's origin. The show's pilot started with these ominous words: "Within each of us, oft times there dwells a mighty and raging fury." In the pilot, we're introduced to Dr. David Banner, a scientist who wants to tap into the hidden strength that all humans have due to a car accident where he was unable to find the strength to save his wife. Now, when he pinpoints gamma rays as a possible reason for others finding the strength to save loved ones where he was not able to, he accidentally exposes himself to a much larger dose of gamma rays than he intended, and the result is the birth of the Incredible Hulk. It was then picked up as a regular series in 1978 for 5 seasons. It continued with 3 more TV movies that started in 1988. The TV series was developed and produced by Kenneth Johnson, who also worked on The $6 Million Man and is credited with creating the Bionic Woman. The comic book Banner became cursed with the Hulk due to saving Rick Jones from a gamma bomb blast, while taking the hit from the blast himself. On the show, the gamma bomb was replaced with a gamma ray chair where he accidentally bombards himself with more radiation than he intended, while trying to find the key to the strength that all humans have during times of life or death struggle. Bruce Banner's name from the comic books was changed to David Banner for the TV show. Marvel Comics labeled their Hulk books Marvel's TV sensation on the front cover during the time of the Hulk TV series. Likely just for fun, the comic book Banner was once enraged to see himself portrayed on television and transformed into the Hulk to go off to smash Hollywood for turning his life into a soap opera in Marvel 2-in-1 number 46. While Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno didn't really make an appearance in that issue, there were a lot of Hollywood cameos from back in the day that were in the book. Check it out. I have a video on it you might be interested in seeing. Let's take a real quick break to ask you please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what classic pop culture comic book heroes or TV shows you'd like me to do a video on next. Now, according to a Wikipedia entry I read, the Hulk is about 7 feet tall and 300 pounds on the show. Now, in the comics, it clearly says that the Hulk is 7 feet tall and weighs 1,000 pounds. This was usually mentioned in the top of the first page of the Incredible Hulk comic books back in the 70s and 80s, where it gives the Hulk's origin introduction at the beginning of the book. David Banner can never remember what he did as the Hulk, which has been the case in most of the comic books throughout the years. The character Jack McGee was played by Jack Colvin, and he was added to hunt the Hulk, much like was done in the classic television series The Fugitive, where Dr. Kimball is chased by a police detective named Philip Gerard.
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
In the Hulk series, McGee is a newspaper reporter. In the comics, the Hulk was hounded mostly by the military, led by General Ross and sometimes by superheroes. The Hulk considered almost all humans to be his oppressor in the comics, as he often raged, "Why don't the puny humans just leave Hulk alone?" The open narration of the show was provided by Ted Cassidy, who's famous for playing the Addams Family butler, and also for being the second actor to play the Bionic Bigfoot on The $6 Million Man. Cassidy also did the Hulk's growls in the first 2 seasons. Unfortunately, he died during the production of Season 2 in 1979. He was 6 foot 9 inches tall. Cassidy had a hard time finding acting gigs at first, as he was told he was too tall to work well with the other actors on screen. His first big role was that of Lurch the Butler, where the casting call was specifically for a very tall actor. Originally, Lurch wasn't supposed to talk, but when Cassidy ad-libbed "You rang," Lurch's best-known line, which cracked everybody up, they gave him more and more lines to say.
You see, the mere thought of it has him bubbling.
Cassidy appeared as Lurch on the Batman episode The Penguin's Nest, during one of the climbing up the wall scenes.
"Oh, it's you, Batman. Gave me quite a start."
Yes, citizen.
He also did the Lurch's voice for the new Scooby-Doo movies in the Addams Family animated series in '73. After the Addams Family went off the air, Cassidy did a lot of guest appearances on a ton of classic shows. He terrorized Captain Kirk on the Star Trek episode What Are Little Girls Made Of?, throwing Kirk around like a rag doll. He guest starred on 2 more Trek episodes as well. And then there was Lost in Space, I Dream of Jeannie, Laredo, The Beverly Hillbillies, Daniel Boone, Tarzan, Mannix, and more. During this time, he started doing voice work for cartoons. He was the voice of Frankenstein Jr. in 1966, the voice of Galactus on the 67 Fantastic Four, and then in 78 he became the voice of Ben Grimm the Thing in the 70s Fantastic Four that featured Herbie the Robot.
And Ben Grimm into a mighty muscled powerhouse called The Thing. Kirby the Robot, the newest member of the group. They have become the greatest team of superheroes the world has ever known. You Fantastic Four.
Hey, if this is work, I can dig it.
He also did the voice of Black Manta and Brainiac on the Super Friends.
He may have gotten away from that seahorse, but I'll set a trap that he'll never get out of. Aquaman!
In one of my favorite cartoons, the 78 Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cartoon, he was the voice of Godzilla. Now, when Andre the Giant couldn't reprise his role as Bigfoot on the 6 Million Armed Man, naturally they got Cassidy to fill in his shoes. Not that Bigfoot actually wore shoes. Now, in Bigfoot's Return 2-part episode, he took on the 6 Million Armed Man and the Bionic Woman. And made one last episode as Bigfoot for the last season of the 6 Million Armed Man. His likeness was used in the packaging of the Bionic Bigfoot toy packages.
The $6 Million Man and Bigfoot the Bionic Beast.
Drag Race Dynamite.
And then he did the voice of the Incredible Hulk for Lou Ferrigno in the 70s TV series starring Bill Bixby. Ironically, Lou Ferrigno would turn around and provide the Hulk's voice for the 90s animated series. Unfortunately, Cassidy died during the Hulk series in 1979 at the age of 46. Coincidentally, he suffered from the same growth hormone problem as Andre the Giant, the other actor to play Bigfoot, and they both died at the age of 46 on a January, related to heart problems caused by their growth hormone conditions. Kenneth Johnson originally tried to get his version of the Hulk to be red for the color Rage, but according to his own words, he couldn't convince Stan Lee it was a good idea. Now, years later, there would be a red Hulk in the comics, but it wouldn't be the Banner Hulk. On the TV show, the Hulk never spoke, he only growled, whereas in the comics, he actually did speak. The TV Hulk was limited in strength as compared to the comic book series. He was able to be wounded by bullets, and while he did heal quickly, it was usually from one transformation to the next. The comic book Hulk, though, was invulnerable to bullets and bombs. One of the few things that could hurt the Hulk was Wolverine's claws, which could actually cut him, but he would heal almost instantaneously. Stan Lee once said about the TV show, he said, "The Hulk was done intelligently. It was done by Ken Johnson, who's a brilliant writer, producer, director, and he made it an intelligent adult show that kids could enjoy. He took a comic book character and made him somewhat plausible. Women liked it, and men liked it, and teenagers liked it. It was beautifully done. He changed it quite a bit from the comic book, but every change he made sense." Actor Richard Kiel was hired for the role of the Incredible Hulk originally, but during filming, Kenneth Johnson's own son pointed out that Kiel's tall but underdeveloped physique just didn't match up to the Incredible Hulk. Soon, Kiel was replaced with Lou Ferrigno. You can still see him only for a second as the Hulk in the pilot episode in the scene where the Hulk saves the girl from drowning. And we can only hope that some of the other scenes he filmed are sitting in a vault somewhere just waiting to be released as a special feature someday, so we can see what his version of the Hulk would have looked like from different angles. Kiel would go on to do lots more television appearances and movie roles in Movies like Pale Rider, where he got beat up by Clint Eastwood. Then he actually fought Superboy in the 80s TV series, where he played an evil imp from Mr. Mxyzptlk's world, who wants to kill Mr. Mxyzptlk. Of course, Superboy has to stop him in this episode. This episode, in a way, sort of marks the only time where the Hulk fought Superman on screen. Well, at least before all those fan-made YouTube videos came along. He did a cool cameo with Mr. T on the Inspector Gadget movie. And before he retired, he did voice work as Jaws on a James Bond video game in 2003. The very last thing he was credited for was The Awakened in 2012. Bill Bixby was a very popular actor before starring on The Incredible Hulk show, having been widely known for his role in My Favorite Martian and other TV series. In 1961, Bill Bixby guest starred in these TV series: Hennessy, Straightaway, The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, Ben Casey, Bachelor Father, and Checkmate. The Andy Griffith Show was in 1962. The name of the episode was Bailey's Bad Boy, and it was from Season 2. In this episode, Andy teaches Bixby's character a lesson of self-reliance and responsibility. Bixby plays a spoiled son of a rich man. It's one of my favorite episodes. Very good. If you haven't seen it, you should look it up. Bill Bixby had two former co-stars join him on The Incredible Hulk. The other we'll talk about in a moment. The first was Brandon Cruz, who appeared on the episode 747. Originally, he co-starred with Bixby on Eddie's father as his son. Bill Bixby got a chance to play with the king of rock and roll in the movie Clambake. I guess most fans of Bill Bixby know that his first big series was My Favorite Martian, a show that debuted way back in the 60s, and a show that must have been dear to Bixby's heart as he brought his co-star, Ray Walston, on board to guest star in the Incredible Hulk third season episode, My Favorite Magician. The title was a play of words on My Favorite Martian and Bixby's other series from the 70s entitled The Magician. My Favorite Martian ran between 1963 and 1966. It was Bixby's first series. It aired on CBS just like The Incredible Hulk. It actually produced more episodes than The Incredible Hulk, even though it aired for only 3 seasons, although each episode only lasted a half an hour piece, of course. Bill Bixby on that show played Tim O'Hara, a young newspaper reporter, and Ray Walston played the Martian. It's kind of interesting on The Incredible Hulk, it's a newspaper reporter named Jack McGee that makes David Banner's life miserable. Kind of ironic. If you hadn't seen My Favorite Martian, the premise is pretty simple. A 450-year-old Martian is stranded on Earth and takes the guise of Tim O'Hara's uncle while he tries to make repairs on his spaceship. Tim does everything he can to help his Uncle Martin keep his identity a secret. There's a lot of fun stuff that happens on the 3 seasons of the show. Uncle Martin has powers and he invents a time travel machine that is used on several episodes.
Mrs. Brown's house is not to be built for another 100 years.
Do you mean that machine is out in the middle of that
Undeveloped land.
Now, in the Hulk episode that reunites Ray Walston and Bixby, Walston plays a magician named Jasper Dowd. It's a little ironic to note his Uncle Martin character could do magic of sorts by moving objects through the air by waving his finger around.
Boy, come on, let's go get it.
Come back here.
He could also disappear by raising his Martian antenna up. Jasper is sort of a washed-up, never-was showman who is fighting health issues and worried that his old flame is about to marry a crook. There's some humor in this episode, but not as much as you might expect considering it was a tribute to a classic TV comedy.
Don't get up.
It's nice seeing Bill Bixby and Ray Walston reunited years later, but they are definitely playing different characters with more of a dramatic turn than My Favorite Martian ever was. There was, at least to me, some feeling of familiarity with Ray Walston's dialogue. I could just hear Uncle Martin saying some of those exact words.
If Matthew Brady and I had only had one of these at Gettysburg.
I was adored everywhere I went, outdrawing even Houdini.
The first Hulk out is pretty neat as Banner is doing a magic trick where he must escape a box filled with water, but is unable to because Walton's character Jasper had forgot to put the escape key back in its hiding place. There's something off about the Hulk's growl in this episode. It just sounds a little different to me. And in the last Hulk out, we get to see the Hulk save Jasper's old girlfriend from marrying a crook. It's not one of the best Hulk episodes I've ever seen, but it's worth watching to see Bill Bixby and Ray Walston reunited. Lou Ferrigno was a champion bodybuilder before he ever put on the green makeup. The makeup process took 3 hours. He had to remove his green eye contacts every 15 minutes because he found them to be painful. The actor loved to read Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk comic books and looked to Steve Reeves, who played Hercules, for inspiration. Lou would not only play the Hulk, but also end up playing Hercules himself. Anybody that grew up in the 70s and owned a television set knows who Lou Ferrigno is, and so does anybody who ever picked up a muscle magazine back in the day with hopes of becoming their own version of the Incredible Hulk. In this video, we talk about the Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno, and stay tuned to later on in the video to find out what real-life, superhuman feat of strength Lou performed while working on the Incredible Hulk TV show. Lou was born in Brooklyn, New York in November 9th, 1951. His father was an actual police lieutenant. Now, Ferrigno lost 75 to 80% of his hearing due to ear infections he got as a child, and this condition was diagnosed when he was 3 years old. Hearing loss and his speech impediment caused Ferrigno to be bullied by peers during his childhood, who called him deaf and mute. Now, around this time, he began reading comic books such as Hulk and Spider-Man, and later he said that he was obsessed with power, and he wanted to be strong enough so that he could defend himself. Started weight training at age 13. While Lou is the role model of many of us who lift weights today, his role model was the great Steve Reeves, who played Hercules in the 1950s. Lou couldn't afford to buy his own weights or go to a gym, so he made his own weights with a broomstick and pails of cement. Lou was not the kind of guy to let money problems, bullies, or health problems hold him back. The more life threw at Lou, the more determined it would seem that Lou became. As a bodybuilder, Ferrigno won a Mr. America title and 2 consecutive Mr. Universe titles, and appeared in the bodybuilding documentary Pumping Iron, when he attempted to beat Arnold in 1977. Now, during the early days of his bodybuilding career, apparently it didn't pay a whole lot of money, so he was actually having to work a $10 an hour job as a metal worker in a Brooklyn factory, and he did that for 3 years. He didn't like the dangerous work, though, and he left after a friend and coworker accidentally cut his hand off. Now, by 1992, Lou went back into bodybuilding competitions, and he weighed an astounding 315 pounds at a height of 6 foot 5 inches. In 1977, Lou was cast as the Hulk. Ferrigno and Bill Bixby became friends during this time. Ferrigno has described Bixby as a mentor and father figure who took him under his wing. Now, in the scene of the first Hulk TV movie where Lou Ferrigno, as the Hulk, overturns a car down a hill, Lou actually did that, as the effects team weren't able to set it up fast enough for him, and he had been working for hours. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. He was tired and wet, and he wanted to go home. He was feeling kind of angry, So he just lifted the whole car, overturned it, basically, because the more angry Lou gets, the stronger he gets. In 78 and 79, Ferrigno appeared in Battle of the Network Stars. I wouldn't have wanted to have been one of the stars competing against him. In 1983, Ferrigno appeared as John Six in the short-lived medical drama Trauma Center. Interestingly enough, he showed up once on The Fall Guy, starring Lee Majors, as his character from Trauma Center, and once again as himself, doing an Incredible Hulk scene where he actually knocks out Lee Majors' character from the show, Colt Seavers. Now, this would be the closest we ever get to a dream matchup between the Hulk and the $6 Million Man. If you're liking this video so far, please comment, hit that like button, and consider subscribing to our channel. We really need all the help we can get. We love pop culture here, comic books, television shows, movies, and anything else that's fun. Now, Lou Ferrigno would return to the role of the Hulk, bigger than ever, for 3 TV reunion movies: The Incredible Hulk Returns, The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, and The Death of the Incredible Hulk, between 1988 and 1990. Now, there were plans for another installment, but the death of Bill Bixby ended hopes for another Hulk movie. In 1996, Lou returned to the Hulk again. This time he was doing the voice of the Hulk for the Incredible Hulk cartoon series. This series ran for 2 seasons and 21 episodes and originally ran on the UPN network. Now I always thought this was neat. He appeared in the sitcom The King of Queens for 20 episodes as himself with his real-life wife. They played neighbors. Now one of the running gags on the series is that the neighbors were always fascinated by him. So all the neighbors are like getting on Lou's nerves on the show, right? And Lou, he hates people telling him Hulk jokes, like one example, Doug, played by Kevin James, he gets mad and Lou attempts to try to calm him down. So Doug responds with that famous line from the opening of The Incredible Hulk, "Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry." Now Lou's son, Lou Ferrigno Jr., he also works in television, and he's been playing Rocker on the rebooted TV show SWAT on CBS. Lou Ferrigno has made cameo appearances as a security guard in both the 2003 film Hulk and the 2008 film The Incredible Hulk, in which he also voiced the Hulk. Fun fact, did you know that the green wig Lou Ferrigno wore as the Hulk was made of dyed yak hair? Lou often wore green slippers for outdoor Hulk scenes to protect his feet, even though, of course, the Hulk was supposed to be barefoot. Now, one day Lou got angry and drove home before he got his Hulk makeup off and caused a minor traffic accident. I can only imagine driving down the road and seeing the Hulk driving a car. Now, here's kind of a sad note. The same day Lou met President Ronald Reagan, he found out the series was canceled on the radio, which of course shocked him as the ratings were still good at the time. In recent years, Lou Ferrigno has done some Me TV commercials for The Incredible Hulk.
Don't pick me off, Wonder Woman. I'm in.
Goodbye.
Joe Hartnell composed the music for The Incredible Hulk. He was brought on because of his work on The Bionic Woman. He created the extremely sad music heard at the very end of every episode as we see Banner walking off or hitchhiking. Writer Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby are credited with creating the Hulk in the comic books. Jack Kirby made an uncredited cameo appearance in the 1979 episode No Escape. He can be spotted in a hospital scene as a police sketch artist.
Big bone man, with thick eyebrows, real thick. No, that's wrong. It's all wrong. Listen.
Now, Stan Lee's cameo on the Hulk didn't happen until the show originally had been canceled. It occurred in the 1989 TV reunion movie, The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, where Stan is a jury foreman in a dream sequence, which is the very first Stan Lee cameo. After Ted Cassidy passed away, another voice was sought after for the Hulk in the form of Charles Napier. Strange they never thought to ask Lou Ferrigno, the literal embodiment of the Hulk, considering he went on to do the voice of the Hulk in the 90s animated series and several movies. Strangely, Napier was not credited even though he did the voice of the Hulk for 49 episodes. He may have did the voice of the Hulk in the TV movies as well, but information I found regarding the TV movies wasn't consistent. He did physically appear in the first TV movie. If anybody knows for sure if Napier did the voice in the 3 TV movies or who actually did, please post in the comments below. But who, you may ask, was Charles Napier? Well, he was a tough character actor who usually played military types and bad guys.
Get a realistic CB at Radio Shack. This 40 channel is on sale now for just $99.95. You'll save $70.
And apparently commercials. Napier was born in a tiny community of Mount Union, Kentucky on April 12, 1936. After graduating high school, he enlisted in the Army in 1954 and rose to the rank of sergeant. Napier was one of the actors you instantly recognized but really didn't know who he was. He was in so many great movies and TV shows. He played the scheming intelligence officer in Rambo First Blood Part 2 in 1985.
Rambo, I don't make the orders. I take them just like you.
He was in 6 episodes of BJ and the Bear.
Oh, yes. And even the law can't slow him up, because there ain't no stopping him.
2 episodes of the A-Team as Colonel Briggs, 2 episodes of Dukes of Hazzard, at least 1 episode apiece, and a ton of TV series of the 70s and 80s like Knight Rider, Starsky and Hutch, Private Benjamin, Dallas, Simon and Simon, Chips, Night Court, Rockford Files, Black Sheep Squadron, and way too many to list.
I worked hard. I tried, and I thought when you tried and you worked hard, I mean, man, this is America.
I guess I remember him most from Rambo and BJ and the Bear. I never knew he did the voice of the Hulk when I first viewed the Incredible Hulk series as a kid. His voice work on the Hulk started at the end of Season 2 in the episodes The Quiet Room and Vendetta Road. Although I have read it's possible you may have also done the earlier episode The Disciple when Ted Cassidy wasn't available. He also physically appeared on the third season episode The Slam as John Blake, a man trying to escape a prison chain gang with David Banner.
Your authority, huh? Hey, you call me Blake. Hey, what happened to 1068, huh? No mistake.
He also appeared in the 1981 fifth season episode Triangle as Bert, a man trying to run David Banner out of town. He also appeared in the Incredible Hulk Returns TV movie as another bad guy who ends up getting taken down by Thor. The Hulk wasn't his only job related to superheroes and sci-fi. One of his first acting jobs was in a couple of episodes of Star Trek. He did voice work on Superman, the animated series, as General Hardcastle. He also did voice work on the Men in Black animated series for 52 episodes as Chief Zed. Unfortunately, Napier passed away in 2011. In a pilot episode, David Banner, in the very first transformation scene of the series, we find a goof that's so easy to miss. In the scene, Banner is in a terrible mood. It's raining, it's storming, and on top of that, he's just gotten a flat tire. As soon as he gets out to investigate, we clearly see the tire's flat and the hubcap has been blown off as a result. Then Banner goes to get the jack out of the trunk, and as he goes to jack the front of the car up, the hubcap is mysteriously back on. I wonder, did somebody think they were doing a good deed by putting that hubcap back on? I'm not sure. But now it's no wonder this was overlooked in the shooting. From Lou Ferrigno's count, he said that for himself that he had been working very late, it was very wet, and he was ready to go home. And this led to Lou actually having to lift the car for real when the effects team weren't able to set up the equipment in a timely manner. Now that's incredible, which is an entirely different show, but if you'd been around in the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. Here's another goof that the eagle-eyed viewer may have seen. Once the Hulk starts to smash the car, the lights go off, which is totally understandable since the Hulk has beaten the car to a pulp. But once the Hulk is ready to pick up the car and throw it down the hill, the lights are back on again. I don't know. Maybe the Hulk just pulled the Fonz. Hit the hood, and the lights came back on. Now this is the episode The Beast Would End where the Hulk battles a gorilla, or a man in a monkey suit, but it's still a cool episode. Now keep your eye on the bottom left. If you're like me and you've seen this episode a million times, this is going to freak you out if you notice this. Just check this out. It's a crew man who just didn't put his head far enough down. It's freaky when you see it. Now from the second episode, which was basically a second TV movie, Banner faces up against a bear and changes into the Hulk. Now, despite the small issues I'll talk about in a second, I have to say this scene still comes out a lot more realistically than would happen today. If they did the same scene today, it would be a CGI bear, and more likely than not, you'd just be, okay, that's a computer-generated image. But here, they mingle the use of an actual real-life bear and what appears to be a stuffed bear. Now, the blooper comes from the fact that Lou's makeup is adversely affected by being in the water. You can see instances where it's coming off his skin and where it's wearing off onto the bear. Granted, you have to really be paying attention. Still, I think it's interesting to note some of the problems and challenges they had back in the day when effects were all practical. The next technical goof is from the episode The Disciple, which guest starred Rick Springfield. You know, the highly popular rock star from the 80s who sang that song about wanting Jesse's girl. By the way, he also guest starred in an episode of Wonder Woman and The $6 Million Man as well. I guess he was a big superhero fan. In the second season episode, for some reason Lou Ferrigno is wearing green tights throughout every Hulk out. You can clearly see the Hulk appears to have no toes after the first Hulk transformation, where Banner is placed in a stockade. We see the stockings again when the Hulk escapes from a police car, and lastly, Lou's lack of toes is visible when the Hulk goes into a fiery building. Now, the only thing you have to wonder about is why did they point the camera towards Lou's feet, knowing he was wearing stockings like that. Now, in the first season episode, Terror in Times Square, if you look closely, you'll notice that Lou Ferrigno is wearing green sneakers, which of course you can't blame him for wearing shoes while running down the dirty streets of 1970s New York. Now, the only really big goof I can't forgive with this episode is the fact they missed a golden opportunity to have the Hulk meet Spider-Man, who was at least supposed to be in New York City on screen. In actuality, they filmed most of that series in LA. But still, it fit the Hulk's location in the story and could have been the very first major Marvel superhero team-up on screen. There was another footwear blooper in this episode. Again, if you look closely, you can see Banner wearing shoes right after he transforms back from the Hulk. I guess Bill Bixby was also worried about stepping on something sharp or disgusting in 1970s New York. Okay, in the second season premiere episode, Married, which is one of the best episodes in television history, in my opinion, there is one very curious blooper in particular I thought was kind of neat. In one of the dream sequences where Banner is trying to gain control of the Hulk, Lou smashes open a vault door. If you look really closely at the door as it falls, you can see where the darn makeup came off his hand into a Hulk-sized handprint. Yeah, and my wife fusses about my handprints on windows. I don't have anything on Lou Ferrigno in that department. Okay, in the episode Life and Death, in this scene we see the Hulk jumping down an elevator shaft. According to my research, this is a stuntman instead of Lou Ferrigno, but that's not the reason I think this could be considered a goof or a blooper. It's just the way he's jumping down the elevator shaft. It's almost like he's disco dancing to Boogie Woogie or something. Now, in this scene from the TV reunion movie The Incredible Hulk Returns, it's clear that it's a stuntman and not Lou, who is probably cut even better for this movie than he was in the original TV show run. In this scene from this episode, safety wires are visible as the Hulk pulls up two puny humans. In the pilot episode, the Hulk attempts to save a little girl from drowning, who clearly is actually a grown stunt woman. Being a big Cobra Kai and Rocky fan, I couldn't pass this one up, even if it is a little bit small. In the first season episode, Final Round, the great Martin Kove guest stars. You know him as the big bad guy from the Cobra Kai series and the Karate Kid movies, John Kreese. Of all things, Kove plays a boxer named Rocky, not to be confused with Stallone's Rocky. By the way, Kove also starred with Stallone in the second Rambo movie. Now, the goof occurs when Rocky is thrown against what is supposed to be a brick wall that gives in like, a wall built for a stage. The really interesting thing about this episode, of course, is that Kove actually plays a good guy. I guess I'll just leave that in. It's a blooper on a video about bloopers. Yeah.